Hello, everybody, and welcome to the greatest time of the year, the start of the National Hockey League season. So here I got my predictions laid out here, this tier list style format. Just going to go through each team, tell you where I think they're going to land. But before I do that, I'm just explaining each of these categories here. So this first category is champion. If you're in this category, it's Stanley Cup or bust. You're expected to go for that cup. You're expected to win the championship. You're in this category, you're the best of the best. Contender. These are playoff teams. These are very, very good teams. Could definitely vie for the championship, but realistically, these are playoff teams that should definitely make the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs in this category, then you definitely had a disappointing season. But now these are very good teams. They'll definitely contend. Hopeful teams. These are teams that I kind of think are kind of in between, teetering on this sort of edge of playoffs and not playoffs. Like, these are teams that could definitely make the playoffs and contend, but it's not certain for sure just because of how much competition there is and just some uncertainties in the team. But now these are good teams. Good teams bordering on great teams, but I think what separates a contender and hopeful: contender, great teams that should definitely make the playoffs; hopeful, good teams that could make the playoffs. Rebuilder. These are teams, I don't want to totally rule them out for this season. You shouldn't, but these are teams I wouldn't expect too much from this year. I think a lot of these teams have gotten better, and I expect a lot of these teams to do better this year, and they could surprise, but I don't really see any of these teams making much noise in terms of playoffs and stuff like that. These are teams that are vying towards the future, and a few years from now, I'd expect teams in this category to be very good. Number one draft pick, self-explanatory. I mean, these teams in this category, you have zero expectations for this upcoming season. In fact, you want to suck. You want to suck this year to get that number one draft pick. Shame right, probably. So, yeah, if you're in this category, they're just melting and they're tanking. Full-out tank. So, I think it won't be a surprise as to which team's in this category. But anyway, let's just get into it. All right, first team, Anaheim Ducks. I could put them in the rebuilder, but nah, I say they're going for the number one draft pick. Imagine adding Shane Wright to that already pretty solid prospect group. I mean, that'd be great for them. So I think they could use that. They could use that kind of star guy. I think Zegras could definitely be that guy for them, and I expect him to definitely contend for the Calder this year. But the Stars could definitely use another star player there for the future, and I think for them, going for that number one draft pick is probably in their best interests this year. And just when I look at this team, I don't expect them to really do that well. I think the offense has issues. I think Zegras will definitely help that a little bit, but I mean, scoring goals, preventing goals. Gibson, I think, he'll do his best. I think he's gotten a bit too much criticism. I think he's done what he can on a bad team. But no, I think the Ducks in a few years, I expect them to be pretty damn good. But right now, it's definitely they're going for that number one pick. But yeah, next team, Coyotes. This team. They're definitely going for the number one draft pick. In fact, here we go. Yeah, so I'm going to rank the rows as well as the columns. So if a team is like closer to the left, then they're better. So, in that case, I should probably put the Duck. Yeah, let's put the Ducks there. Yeah, so the Coyotes, this team is, they have some issues. But the good thing is they're finally realizing that it's probably in their best interest to just tank. They've kind of been in this in-between sort of situation the past few years where they want to contend, but they're not really good enough, but they think they can. And I think it's in their best interest to tank, and they definitely realize that this year. They've gotten rid of a lot of their key guys like Connor Garland and Christian Dvorak. They've got in Ekman Larson as well. They've gotten rid of a lot of these like top end guys for them, just because they see in their future there's just not really a place for them, and they're definitely realizing that they need that tanking is in their best interest. Coyotes going for that number one draft pick. Yeah, when I look at this team, not much expectations this upcoming year. We'll see, but yeah, not much expectations. Well, and speaking of not much expectations this upcoming year is our next team, the Buffalo Sabres, which are obviously not. They are going for the number one draft pick. This team might be one of the worst teams in the history of the sport. I mean, I don't want to dog on Buffalo Sabres fans that much. They know how bad their team is. I don't need to explain to them how bad their team is, but I'll be legitimately surprised if this team wins 20 games next year. Like this, I mean, seriously, like I'm dead serious when I say that. This team has issues, but no, they're going for Shane Wright. I guess they're trying to get another good guy's career to ruin. So, yeah, Eichel, I mean, I don't expect him to play any games for them this year. I mean, first of all, he's hurt, but even when he does get healthy again, assuming he'll ever be able to get his surgery if the team allows him, I'll expect him to play a game for them. I think he's dumped the team, as he should be, and hopefully he gets traded at some point. But, yeah, no, Sabres, they're going for the number one draft pick. The Flames. This is a tough one. I'm going to put the Flames in the hopeful category. I think this is a team that really, for example, I think the Canucks, I think they got a lot of criticism last year, as they should. I think that was a team that definitely disappointed, but a team in that North Division that really disappointed, I don't think got really talked about enough, is the Flames. I mean, the expectations going in last year for them were pretty high, and they did not deliver at all. I mean, they have a very solid core group there, and they've just underachieved the past few years. And this is a team I look on paper should be a playoff team, but I don't know. I think they're a good team. I think they should, just looking at the team, they should make the playoffs, but I don't know if I see it. I mean, they were very mediocre last year, and I still kind of see them that way. They're kind of stuck in mediocrity right now. It's a good team, but not a great team, and they've definitely been a bit disappointing in recent times. So right now I have the Flames and hopeful. I mean, in the division they're in, the Pacific Division, I mean, probably the worst easily the worst division in hockey. They should make the playoffs. So if they don't make the playoffs, a very disappointing season for them. But now I have the Flames in the hopeful category. Blue Jackets I have as rebuilders. I think they're much better than the teams below them, so I'm not putting them a number one draft pick. I think this team is also a bit better than some people give it credit for, but they had a really rough year last year, so I can understand, and I definitely would put them in the rebuilder category. And plus, just the division they're in. I don't see them finishing ahead of any of those teams in their division. That Metro division is absolutely stacked. It's a brutal division, so yeah, it's going to be a tough year for the Blue Jackets. I think the coaching change was necessary. I like Torts, but I just think his style wasn't really working, especially with, I look at a guy like Patrick Laine. I think of a coaching change, I think he's going to really flourish this year. I expect a big bounce back season out of him. But yeah, no, Blue Jackets definitely rebuilders. Not much expectations this year, but we'll see. The Blue Jackets have surprised in the past, so I wouldn't rule them out quite yet. The Oilers, definitely contenders. This Oilers team, very good regular seasons the past few years, been very disappointing in the playoffs. Another one of those teams I think that's kind of gotten, the Leafs, for example, everybody always complains about the Leafs all the time in the playoffs, as they should. The Leafs have been by far the most disappointing team when it comes to the playoffs, but a team that hasn't been talked about enough is the Oilers. They've won one playoff series in their entire McDavid era. One. That's it. And they haven't won one since 2017. So this is a team that they've had some great regular season success. They need to be able to translate that into the playoffs. I like some of the moves they made this offseason. Some of them were a bit curious, but I really like the addition of Zach Hyman. I think he's going to work really well with McDavid and company. I expect some breakout years of Jesse Puljujarvi, and I think Yamamoto's going to have a big bounce back season. I like the Oilers team. I really do. The defense is a bit questionable, but I think their offense is good enough. That top six is probably the best in the league. I'd say at least up there. The bottom six has definitely improved. Some of the additions they made this offseason I think will help that. Defense, it's a bit iffy. I think they got some offensive firepower, but in terms of the actual defensive structure, I'm not quite sure. The goaltending that's definitely the big question mark. I mean, Mike Smith, what a year he had last year, but is he going to be able to replicate that? I'm not so sure of that, but the thing is that the way the team's structured, the goaltending doesn't have to be great. It just has to be good enough. So I think a Smith-Koskinen duo, it's good enough for them. I mean, I think they could definitely do better than that, but I mean, it worked for the most part last year, so we'll see how that goes for them. But no, Oilers definitely a contender. Islanders are a champion for me. They will contend for that Stanley Cup. They've made the conference finals now 2 years in a row. This is a very, very solid, very, very good Islanders team. Trotz definitely has worked really well for that team. I mean, he's just his coaching ability has worked wonders, and Lamoriello as well as GM, he's made some great moves for them. So I like the structure the Islanders have. They're a team that's built for the playoffs. I mean, they've been good in the regular season, but they're a team that is built for the playoffs the way it's structured. Their defense is super strong. Their goaltending, Varlamov and Sorokin, arguably the best goaltending tandem in the league, I would say. Andrei Vasilevsky and Tampa has something to say about that, but no, this Islanders team, a very good defensive team, and defense wins championships, but they got good offense too, with Matthew Barzal leading that tandem. So, no, this is a great team. Come up short in the past few years in the Stanley Cup, but I would not rule them out at all. I think they're definitely going to contend for that championship this year. Los Angeles Kings, they are definitely a rebuilder for me. In fact, I'll put them ahead of the Blue Jackets. Let me do this little thingy here. There we go. Yeah, so Kings, I think they're a sleeper team, though. I do think this team is a bit better than some people have given credit for. I think this is a team that could surprise. Like, if there's one team in rebuilders I'd say could move up this year, I'd say it'd be the Kings. I still see them as a rebuilder. I think a few years from now, they're going to be insane. They have arguably the best prospect pool in the league. Unfortunately, Byfield I saw was hurt, so that'll hurt them. But no, I mean, this team has an outstanding prospect pool, probably the best of the league. I'd say either them or the Red Wings have the best prospect pool right now. So this team in a few years is going to be really, really good. I don't think they're there yet, but I think they're going to be there in a few years. The Devils is a tough one. I'm actually going to put the Devils. I'll put the Devils in the hopeful category. This is a team I think that if they were in a different division, I'd say would definitely vie for the playoffs. And I'm not going to rule them out for that, but for me, it's just tough with the division they're in. I think they're hopeful. I think this team is definitely, when I look at improvements, I think this team is one of the most improved teams going into the season. I think this is definitely a sleeper team, a team that could surprise. The problem is their division. They're in a brutal division, but they need guys to step up. And one guy I look at who needs to step up this year, he's going into his third year, is Jack Hughes. I think he will step up. I think he's going to have a really good year for them. I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong, but no, this team, they need guys like that to step up. And I think the addition of Dougie Hamilton's really going to help them really bring some offense in that back end. But no, I think this is a good team. The division they're in, I just don't know if I see them making the playoffs. It could definitely prove me wrong, but I think they're definitely good enough for hopeful, but not any higher than that. And the Rangers is a similar situation, although I'd say they're a bit better. Rangers, I think this is a team that is really going to take a step up this year. But in order for that to happen, they need these young guys to step up. And I think that's going to happen with the coaching change. I think last year, a lot of guys like Lafreniere and Kakko, they weren't getting the playing time they probably should have. And I think those two are going to get time in the top six this year, and I think those two are really going to break out, especially Lafreniere. I think he's got a big year this year. And I think the Rangers are really going to make I really think they're going to make some improvements this year and surprise some people. I really could see his team making the playoffs. It's just the division they're in is tough. That's going to be tough to beat teams like beat teams for that last playoff spot, such as like the Penguins, the Capitals, etc. I could definitely see them doing that. I think this is a very good team. I think a better team than some people have projected going into the season. But they're in a tough division. They're in a tough division, but it's a very solid team. I think they need guys. They need those young guys to step up. If those young guys like Lafreniere or Kakko could step up, then yeah, throw them. I definitely think they make the playoffs. Up next is the Senators, and yeah, I like the Senators team. I have them rebuild. I'm saying I like them for the future. I think in the future, this team 2-3 years from now is going to be really good. As for this year, I think it's going to be a tough year for them as it was last year. I don't think this team is there yet, but a few years from now, I think this team could definitely be very, very solid. I like that young group they have in Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, Brady Tkachuk, very, very solid. And, of course, Tim Stützle. I mean, what a player he is. So, now I like this team. Some questions in net. I think that's an area they need to address for the future. But, no, I do like this team a lot. I definitely could see them making some noise a few years from now. But this year, definitely rebuilding. I wouldn't expect too much for them this year. Penguins. Penguins are definitely, I'll still say they're a contender. I mean, I don't know though. They're definitely contender. They're in between. I'm in between contender and hopeful. And the reason I say that's because they've still been great in the regular season in past years, but they've had some issues when they've actually gotten to the playoffs. That's why I'm not really sure as to where to put them in the contender and hopeful. But no, I'm still gonna put them in. As long as you have Sidney Crosby and Malkin on your team, you're a contender. So no, Penguins are definitely a contender. Ever since they won 2 straight cups, they haven't exactly had much playoff success since then. So that's the thing with them. And Crosby, Malkin, they aren't getting any younger. I'll just say that. So I think they're still going to be really good this year. But honestly, it's a tough division though. I expect in teams like the Rangers and Flyers to bounce back and have really good years. So we'll see how the Penguins deal with that. But no, this is still a good team. But yeah, they definitely, due to the lack of success they had in the playoffs lately, I'm just not sure about where they're at this year. But no, I think the Penguins are still a very good team. Again, as long as you still have guys like Crosby, Malkin on your team, you're in good hands. But as long as they're healthy, that's the key, right? So, but no, the Sharks are up next, and I have them. Yeah, no, they're definitely a rebuilder. I would say I'll put them right here. Yeah. All 3 California teams, as you can see, they're all in a column here. Yeah, Sharks are a rebuilder for me. And it's tough because this is a team that is really disappointed the past few years. I look at teams that have been disappointing. I think the Sharks are probably, I don't want to say tops, but they're right up there. The Carlson move has not worked out at all for them. Burns has started to digress, and don't even get me started with Evander Kane and what's going on with him. But this is a team that is definitely rebuilding. But I still feel like they haven't really. I think they're starting to realize that they're in a rebuilding state because they're kind of one of those teams that's they're kind of struggled with their identity the past few years of if they're rebuilding or not, if they still think they're contenders. But I think they're starting to realize that they're in a rebuilding state. Just look at the goaltending right now that they have going on. But no, I mean, this team's definitely they're vying for the future, and that's probably for the best for them, I think. And it's tough for the Sharks, though. They've had a lot of disappointments in the playoffs when they get there. Like, they've had a lot of great regular season success in their history, but when it comes to playoff time, it just doesn't really transfer. But no, this is a team I look at, like, it could definitely surprise, but I don't see this team doing any better than rebuild. Kraken. I'm going to put the Kraken in the hopeful category. And this may surprise some people, but because some people have said, I think the Kraken, it's been a kind of tale of two stories. I think some people are undervaluing them. I think some people overvaluing them. I think there are some people who just expect them to be another Golden Knights team that just comes in right away and starts winning 50 games and goes to the Stanley Cup final. I think those people maybe, I like to know what kind of, what kind of drugs they're getting, but because I think this team, they're a good team. I think they're a better team than some people think. But I do not see this team being another Vegas type situation. I think because of the division they're in, they definitely could make the playoffs. I mean, they're in the worst division in the league by far. I mean, no question about that. So they could definitely make the playoffs. But no, this team, I think they have more of a long-term vision right now. I think their GM Francis has definitely realized that. So no, I think they're a hopeful team. I think they could make the playoffs because of their division, but in reality, I wouldn't have super high expectations in terms of success, at least in the playoffs if they do get there. But I mean, it's hard enough to get there just because how good the Central is. I think 5 teams making the Central, 3 in the Pacific. So because of that, the Kraken have to beat out, they have to beat out 5 teams in their division to make the playoffs. So I don't know if I see that happening. So Kraken, I think they're a hopeful team. I think they'll be fun to watch this year. I think they'll be better than some people think, but I also I caution against over valuing them. I don't expect this to be another Vegas situation. So yeah, Kraken having hopeful. The next one I don't think really requires much of an explanation. The Lightning go right to champion. 2 straight cups for the Lightning. Could definitely be 3 straight cups. This team definitely did lose some pieces in the bottom 6, but their core group is still fully intact. And that is remarkably impressive that they haven't lost anything in their core. So now this is a very, very good team, ridiculous team. And yeah, I think they'll definitely contend for that 3rd straight cup this year. I mean, they really haven't. Again, they lost some pieces in the bottom 6 and Gord and Coleman, etc. But their core group is still together. And as long as you keep that core together, then that's really all you need. I mean, and they did add some nice pieces in the bottom 6 too. So no, this is a team that I think is every bit as good as they've been the past 2 years. And I expect them to contend for the championship again. Jets, I'd say, go to contender. Jets, they've been so close to breaking through, they just haven't quite done it. I think this is a team, they've been very close to contending for that cup, but they're just not quite there. But it's still a very, very good team. They're definitely a playoff team, a team I expect to make the playoffs to contend, but I don't quite see them as a championship team. But no, they have a very strong core, very underrated core, I think. Arguably the best goalie in the league, and Connor Hellebuck, he's definitely up there at least. I really like this Jets team. I think they're definitely the second best team in the Central Division. So the only team I see them as being better in the Central is Avalanche, which we'll get to later. But no, it's a very good Jets team. I fully expect them to contend this year. The Panthers. Now I'm going to say contender. I want to put them higher, but nah. I mean, they have to win a round. Everybody always talked about the Leafs not winning a round since 2004, and that's very true. But one team that's kind of going to pass is the Panthers. The Panthers haven't won a round since they made it to the Stanley Cup Final in 1996. That's the last time the Panthers won a playoff round. So they have to win a playoff round before I could start putting them any higher than this. But when I look at this team, though, this is a team that should definitely contend. And definitely a team I think that's capable of winning the Stanley Cup. I really do think that. I like this Panthers team a lot. They were unlucky last year. They have to run into the Lightning round 1 with the playoff format last year. But this year they shouldn't have that problem. If they finish around where they did last year, they should win the round finally. And I expect them to make a deep playoff run this year the way the team's structured. But are they champions? I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they're there yet. But I do really like this team. I love Joe Quenneville, great coach. So no, I think the Panthers definitely contender. Could be a champion, but I have a contender. Boston Bruins. Bruins I also have as a contender. Bruins are definitely a team to watch this year. Tuukka Rask won't be available for a while, so it'll be interesting to see how Linus Ullmark does. I think he's a very underrated goalie. I think he'll do fine for them, but we just don't know, right? I mean, Ullmark has never really had that. I mean, he's been a starter for the Sabres, so not really. I mean, he's had injuries and stuff, and I mean, it's a Sabres, so it's just hard to say how he's going to do with the Bruins. But no, I like Ullmark. I think he was one of those guys that kept the Sabres afloat for the first half of last year. Once he went down, Eichel went down, then it just fell apart for them. But no, Ullmark, a very solid goalie. I think he could do really well for the Bruins. But one loss to the Bruins, I think that could be a bigger loss than some people think, is losing Krejci. I think losing Krejci is your second-line center. That could be a very big loss for the Bruins. I think it will be a very big loss for the Bruins. He worked very well with Taylor Hall last year in the limited time they played together, so it was a surprising move when I saw that he moved back to play in the Czech League for hockey. So, surprising move, but, I mean, for the Bruins, it definitely could hurt them big time. Right now, I mean, who even knows? I think Coyle is probably going to be their second-line center right now, but I don't know. I mean, that's tough. Their second line definitely looks a lot less impressive now, but they do have Taylor Hall for the full season, and that top line of Marchand, Pastrnak, Bergeron. I mean, as long as they have that line, solid second, not great second, and then very 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 strong defense, pretty strong defense. And yeah, I think the goaltending will be fine, especially if Rask comes back. But I think Ullmark will be fine for them. So I think it's still a very good Bruins team. I'm not quite sure this is as good as a team as they were last year, and I think they could drop off a bit this year, but I still expect them to make the playoffs and contend. Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina Hurricanes, definitely a contender. I will say this, some very questionable moves in the offseason, and that's the tough thing for the Hurricanes. I think this is a good team, a very good team, but I don't understand trading Nedeljkovic to the Red Wings. I do not understand that move at all. If somebody can explain that move to me, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I don't understand it. And losing Hamilton definitely hurts. I mean, their defense is still great even without Hamilton, but it definitely hurts losing him. But no, this is still a very, very great team. Very, very, and I think they're going to do very well this year. I think especially if Freddie Anderson has a bounce back season and the goaltending might be fine, it might not be any worse. But yeah, I mean, right now I think Anderson-Ranta duo isn't quite as strong as a Mrazek Nedeljkovic duo, but I think it could still be a better goaltending talent than people think. And right now, with the way the team is, the top six in this team is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, I think the Hurricanes still a very, very good team. I think Aho, Svechnikov, those two work wonders. So, and that top six is still very, very strong. So, yeah, I still think it's a very good team, a contender, but not quite champion, but no, definitely a contender. Colorado Avalanche for me is definitely a champion. I'll put them here. They have to get past the second round. The second round for the Colorado Avalanche is the first round for the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Panthers. They have a hard time in the second round for whatever reason, so they have to get past the second round. But no, when I look at this team, this is definitely a champion team. I think arguably they're the best team. I think they are the best team in the league, really. I mean, maybe Lightning have something to say about that because they won the last two cups, so they probably should automatically be called the best team. So I'll call them the second best team. But no, the Avalanche going this year is their year, I think. If they don't win a championship this year, or especially if they don't make it past the second round, there's going to be some big-time question marks. But yeah, Avalanche, it's championship or bust of this team, I think. They have to at least make it past the second round. I mean, this is a team that's way too good to not begin past the second round. But Avalanche are definitely a champion for me, a team to look out for, and I think this is their year. But we'll see. Red Wings are definitely a rebuilder. We'll put them... No, actually, I'm going to put them ahead of the Sharks. There we go. I think the Red Wings, they're definitely an improved team, but I don't see them doing any better than rebuilder. I think a few years from now, they're going to be dangerous. I say them along with the Kings, I think, have the best prospect system in the league right now. I'll throw Senators in there as well, I think. But no, I think the Kings and Red Wings, very ridiculous prospect system. I think this team's going to be very good in a few years. As for this year, though, I just don't see it. I think losing Jacob Verano definitely hurts big time. That's a big-time loss for them. But I think Moritz Seider could be very good for them, I think, on defense. So we'll see how he does there. But no, it's a good team. I think having Nedeljkovic, adding him in net, that's going to make a world of difference. So he could definitely steal some games for them. So, no, definitely a better Red Wings team, but I don't see them as doing any better than rebuilders. So I have them as a rebuilder. The Vegas Golden Knights, yeah, I mean, they're definitely champion. There we go. Now, Golden Knights are definitely champion. It's been tough for them, though, because I think Foley, I mean, it makes sense because Foley said he wants to win a cup in 6 years when he founded the team. He says, in 6 years, I want this team to win a cup. And they've gotten close. I mean, their first year, they made it all the way to the final, but didn't quite close a deal. And they made it to the conference final 3 times since, so, or 2 times since. So, no, this Golden Knights team is very strong. They've come a bit short in recent years, but I think it's a team that's definitely capable of winning a championship. the pressure is on Robin Lehner this year. I mean, without Marc-Andre Fleury of him going to the Hawks, the pressure is definitely on Robin Lehner. I think he's definitely a goalie that's capable of doing really well this year and taking that role that Fleury had very fine. I think Lehner's a great goalie. I think he could definitely do really well in that starting role. But the pressure's definitely on from this year. But I think he'll be fine. I think the Knights will definitely contend for that championship for sure. The Stars. Stars I have as a hopeful. I'll put them. Yeah, I'll put them here. The Stars, it's tough because they made it to the Cup final in 2020. Last year was a very disappointing year for them, but they did get really hurt with injuries, so that's tough for them. They'll have Sagan back this year, so that's going to make a big difference. Who the hell knows if Bishop's going to come back? I feel like he's been hurt for years, but no, I mean, they got Sagan back, so that's going to be a big help for them. But no, it's a good Stars team. Again, they're in a tough division. That's a problem. The Central, I don't know if it's going to be tough. I think they're definitely capable of making the playoffs, but it's going to be tough in the division they're in. But no, it's still a very strong Stars team. I think they're definitely contend for a playoff spot for sure. No, they're definitely one of those teams I think is teetering on that edge of playoffs, but not quite there. Mostly because of the division they're in, but I think on paper, I think this team's very good and should definitely make the playoffs, but we'll see. Blackhawks, I think, are definitely a hopeful team. I'm going to put them right here. I think the Hawks, I love the moves they made in the offseason. I think adding Marc-Andre Fleury in net, I think is going to be huge for them. I mean, right now they got a great duo of Fleury and Lankinen. I think that's one of the best goalie duos and tandems in the league right now. I think very underrated duo too. I think getting Seth Jones that back end is going to be big. They need Jones to perform. I mean, they're paying him the money. They need Jones to perform for them. That's going to be big for them. But then having Taves come back for them and Doc for the full season for that matter. A breakout season out of Kirby Doc and a great season out of Taves would be huge for the Hawks because they already got Kane to Brinkett, that great duo there. So very, very strong Hawks team. I think they so it was a tough year for them last year, but I think that wasn't unexpected. And I honestly think they did better than some people thought. Hell, I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league last year, and they definitely were not the worst team in the league, that's for sure. They weren't a playoff team by any means, but they were better than people thought. And I think with the moves they made this offseason, this is a team that's expecting to make the playoffs. I had them in hopeful just because of the division they're in. They're in a very tough Central division. I'd say Central is probably the second best division in hockey after the Metro, arguably the best, honestly. So Hawks definitely a team capable of making the playoffs, but the reason I have them hopeful was mostly because of the division. It's a tough division, and it's going to be hard for them to finish out of teams like the Stars and the Wild. They definitely can, but they have to prove it, right? They have to prove it. So I have the Hawks as a hopeful team. The Wild, I also have as, with Kaprizov added, I'm going to put them right next to the Hawks. Yeah. I think Kaprizov, having him back is huge. I think with him re-signing, the expectations of that team are much higher. I like this Wild team. I think it's a very strong team, especially with Kaprizov added. I mean, without Kaprizov, that just shows how good a player is. You take away one player, and that makes a huge difference. But no, you add him back, and that's big for them. The fact that he resigned is huge for the Wild. Definitely a very great season for them last year. They got to have some playoff success, though. This is another team that has been fine in the regular season most of their history, but just when it comes to playoff time, they just haven't delivered. So this is a team that needs to deliver come playoff time. Their fans would definitely agree with that. So Wild have been stuck with the Flames. I mean, they kind of been stuck as a mediocre team, like pretty good in the regular season most years, but then they struggle come playoff time. So this is a team that needs to prove itself in the playoffs. So I think it's a team that's capable of doing it, but they got to show it. And they got to make it first. Like the Central, very top division. So Montreal Canadiens. This is a tough one because they just made the Stanley Cup Finals, so you would think that I'd put them in contender, but I don't know. I'm going to put them in as a hopeful team. I definitely have, right there. Canadiens, again, they shocked everybody last year. Nobody expected the Canadiens to do what they did last year, make it all the way to the final. And I think they're still good. I think losing Weber and Price, for that matter, for a while is going to hurt them big time. That's the problem with them. Price should be back for them eventually this year, but who knows when the hell that's going to happen. I mean, it could be a long ways from now. So, and then Weber for pretty much the whole year, I think. So those are two big losses for them. But yeah, no, I like that first line after Foley, Suzuki, Caulfield. That's going to wreak havoc this year, I think. I think it's still a very good team. I think it could definitely surprise some people. I think some people have already written them off saying, last year was total fluke. But I think it's still a very good team. I think they could definitely still make the playoffs this year. I think it's just tough, the division they're in. I don't know if I see them finishing ahead of the Leafs, Bruins, Panthers, or Lightning. I kind of have them in fifth in that division. And I don't think 5 teams make in that division. So probably only 4. So, yeah, Habs, I don't see them making the playoffs this year. But I think they definitely could shock some people. They could surprise people, and they could very well make it. But I have them as a hopeful team right now. Predators. I'm going to put the Predators down here and hopeful. I think it's still a good team, the Predators. For me, the tough thing, the Predators, is the division they're in. I don't see them finishing ahead of. I have a hard time seeing them finish ahead of the 6 teams I have ahead of them in my projections, which I'll show later. I think it's still a good team, but I think they're kind of itching towards a rebuild. Like, I think they're a team that's kind of like, I don't know, like they seem to think they could still contend, and they really well could. I mean, Saros for them if he has another great year, and that defense is still strong. I mean, I think losing Ellis definitely hurts, but like the Predators are a team that they've lost great defense, and they still had a great defense. I mean, they've been able to lose Subban, Weber, and now they've lost Ellis as well, but like they've still had great defenses all these years. So their defensive goaltending is still very strong. I think the problem with the Predators is the offense. That has some issues. They need guys like Duchesne and Johansson to finally step up, because those guys have done nothing but underperform for them since they've been with the team. So now the Predators team I have stuck right now is kind of a hopeful team. I don't know if they make the playoffs in the division, but they could. Saros and their defense could definitely bring them there. The Flyers. So the Flyers, after the year they had, you might think I put them in hopeful. Nah, I'm going to put them up here. I'm going to put them as a contender. The Flyers are a bounce-back team for me this year. They had a rough year last year, especially Carter Hart. I mean, I don't think he's going to have a season like that again. I think this Flyers team is way too good to have that type of season they had last year again. I like some of the moves they made this offseason. I think the defense is much better with the addition of Ellis and Ristolainen. I think that defense much improved. And I think they have a very strong top 6 there in that offense. They need a bounce-back season from Hart. They need him to be good this year. If he's good, that defense is much better. That offense should be a very good Flyers team. And I have them as a contender. The Blues. This is a tough one. I'm going to put them as a contender. I'm stuck with them between contender and hopeful, but I'm going to put them as a contender. I still think the Blues are a very good team. They're not far removed from a cup. They really aren't. That was not long ago, and it's still a very strong team in terms of that core is still there. Bennington, they need a big year out of him. He was kind of up and down last year. They need him to be good this year. I really like the Pavel Buchnevich edition, the Brandon Saad edition. And I think I still like this Blues team. I think it's still a very solid team. I think they could definitely contend this year. That's why I have them there. I think they're definitely a contending team. Right now I'm having slated as probably the 3rd best team in the Central. I don't see them finishing ahead of either the Avalanche or the Jets, but when I look at them right now, I think they're pretty solidly the 3rd best team in the Central, but that's tough for me to project. I mean, it's a tough division. But yeah, I have the Blues as a contender right now. The Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a contender. This team needs to deliver in the playoffs. I don't really have to say that. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but now this team has to get done the playoffs. It's ridiculous now. I mean, this team is far too good, far too talented to get eliminated in the first round every single year. It's getting ridiculous. They need to break that drought. It's just becoming a joke at this point. So, at least it's a great team on paper. They need to deliver in the playoffs. Enough said. Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks I have as a hopeful team. I'm not putting the Rangers ahead of these two guys, actually. And I'm going to put the Stars ahead of them, too. There we go. Yeah. Let's see which team I have here. Oh, yeah. The Canucks. Yes, the Canucks. Yeah, Canucks, I think I had them pretty much right there at the Flames. Those are two teams that had really disappointing years last year, and I think both teams are in line for bounce backs this year. I think the Canucks are definitely a big bounce back team. I like some of the additions they made in the offseason, Connor Garland and Ekman Larson. And no, I think the Canucks are a better team than some people give credit for. I think they had a tough year last year, so I understand some people criticizing them, but I think them along with the Flyers are two big bounce back teams in my opinion. I only have them as a hopeful though because it's tough for them. I mean, I don't really see them as being better than a contender, but I think they're definitely at least a hopeful team. But yeah, I mean, they definitely could make the playoffs. I kind of expect them to just because of the division they're in. I think them and the Flames pretty similar teams. But I think I have the Canucks being slightly better. So, but yeah, it's going to be a battle between those two teams, that last playoff spot in the Pacific. So we'll see. But Canucks have as a hopeful right now. And the last team, the Washington Capitals. I don't know why the Jets were so early. I had this in alphabetical order, but the Jets for some reason they were earlier than that. I don't know why. But yeah, the Capitals, last team, I guess. Capitals, I think, are a contending team. Put them right there at the Pens. But a similar deal with the Pens as the Capitals. I think they're two very relatable teams. They're two teams that aren't far removed from cups, but I think for both teams, I'm just going to say I think their best years are behind them. I think they're still both very good teams. I think they're teams that contend for the playoffs, but it's just what happens when they actually make the playoffs, right? Because both teams the past few years have made the playoffs but haven't really done anything once they got there. So I think they're two very good teams, but I don't know if I see them contending for championships anymore. It could definitely prove me wrong, and and we'll see if they do. But no, Capitals definitely a contending team. Not really much has changed in the offseason, so that's another thing that helps with them. But yeah, that's my tier list for the season. I'm going to take it to where are my divisional projections for the season, see where all the teams line up in the division. Now time for where I think each of the divisions are going to stack up here. So in the Central, I think the first place, no debates here. I think the Avalanche take first place in this division. I think it's their division to lose. I have them first. Winnipeg, if there's one team I think that could surprise them, I think the Avalanche, that being said, I think could be the Jets. I think the Jets very solidly the second best team in this division. Very, very strong team, like I said. So I think they're second. But 3 through 6 in this division, this is where I think it gets interesting. 3 through 6 in this division, maybe even 7, but mostly 6. I could see each of these 4 teams finishing anywhere. I really think this is where division gets really interesting, and I could really see all these teams finishing anywhere from 3 through 6. So I have the Blues 3rd, Hawks 4th, Wild 5th, Stars 6th, but I could see really any combination there. As you see, I have Astros next to Minnesota, so I have them making the playoffs. So I was really in between the Wild and Stars here. I had a hard time picking which team makes it in. For me, with Kaprizov re-signing at the Wild, I have a hard time not having them make the playoffs. So it's tough. The Stars are definitely a team. They're a playoff team, like on paper. In this division, I just don't know. I had to have one of these 4 teams not make it in. For me, I had to go the Stars. I think the Blues are not far removed from a cup. It's still a very strong team. The Hawks, I really like the moves they made in the offseason. I think this is a sleeper team, a team that hasn't really gotten talked about enough. I think they're a team that's going to surprise this year. And the Wild, between the Stars and the Wild, I just think the Wild are slightly better. The Stars could definitely prove me wrong. This could be a prediction that really ages poorly, but right now the Stars in 6th. Predators in 7th. Again, Predators, it's a tough team. I think they're a team that could definitely challenge for a playoff spot, but I don't know. I don't really see them finishing ahead of the teams I have above them. I think this could be a tough year for them, but we'll see. We'll see if this with the Predators. You don't want to count the Predators out. I will say that. You do not want to count the Predators out. The one team in this division I don't see doing anything is the Coyotes. The Coyotes are going to get eaten alive in this division. I'm just going to say it. The Coyotes are going to get absolutely eaten alive in this division. So, but that's probably for their best. It's for their best, for their future. But yeah, the Coyotes, it's going to be a rough year for them. That's for sure. Pacific. With all due respect to the teams in the Pacific, this is the worst division in hockey, without question. But it's still a very interesting division. I think it'll be a fun division to watch. Vegas, it's their division to lose. I have them at first. I think the Oilers could definitely compete with Vegas at that top spot, but I have the Vegas fishing ahead of them. But it'll be close, I think, between those two. Third on back is where things get interesting. I could see probably. I think it's going to be either the Canucks or Flames making this final spot. As you see, I got Astros next to the Canucks. I have them making the playoffs. I have 5 teams in the Central, 3 teams in the Pacific make the playoffs. I don't think that's much of a surprise. I think a lot of projections have it that way. But no, it's a slugfest for me between Vancouver and Calgary as to who makes it in. For me, I have Vancouver. I just think for me they're slightly stronger than the Flames. But it's tough. I think it'll be definitely a dogfight between those two teams. I have the Kraken in 5th. For the Kraken, I think they're going to have a better year just because of the division they're in. I think their team on paper is not terrible, but it's not really that impressive either. But I think with the division they're in, I think they could definitely make some noise in this division. They definitely could be a sleeper team to make the playoffs. It could happen. It could definitely happen, but I have them in 5th. And then in the 6th through 8, I have the 3 California teams. I think they're all kind of still stuck in a rebuild. I think if there's one team from this slate that could surprise, that could be the Kings. The Kings are definitely a team I could see surprising people. I could definitely see them doing better than this. But for now, I have them at 6. I still think they're rebuilding. They're still a few years away, from really making noise. But 3 California teams, I think, in a similar boat. I think the Kings probably have the brightest future, followed by the Ducks, followed by the Sharks. But I have them 6th right here. Atlantic. This is a good division. I think there's definitely a clear divide, though, between the top 4 or 5 teams and the bottom 3. But no, I have the Panthers win the division. I think similar to the Avalanche, I think this is the Panthers' year. The Panthers have to make something happen this year. They had a great regular season last year, but then they lost the first round of the playoffs. But, I mean, it's kind of tough for them. They're put in a tough boat. They have to play the Lightning first round. So, assuming that doesn't happen again this year, they should definitely win a round. They have to. They have to win a round. They have to win a round. So, this is the Panthers' year. They got to make something happen this year, and I think they do. And then the defending 2-time champs, the Lightning, I think they finished 2nd. Still a very strong team. I fully expect them to have another strong year. I have them in 2nd. Boston, I have in 3rd. I don't think this Bruins team's quite as good as some of the past Bruins teams, but I still think it's good enough to definitely make the playoffs. I expect them to have another good year. And the Leafs, I have just making it in 4th. See, I got Astros next to them, so I have the Leafs making the playoffs. 4 teams from the Atlantic and 4 teams from the Metro. So I have the Canadiens just missing out on a playoff spot. It was tough, but it's still a good Canadiens team. I think they could still make the playoffs, but I don't really see it. I don't see them finishing out of those 4 teams ahead of them, and I don't see 5 teams making it in the Atlantic. So I just think the Canadiens just miss out there. And these bottom 3 teams, especially the last one, they're all rebuilding. I think the Senators and Red Wings will be better this year, but I don't see them contending for a playoff spot. I think they're both still rebuilding. But in a few years, I expect both these 2 teams to be very strong. The Sabres, just have fun. Have fun, Sabres. It's going to be a rough year. Metro. I have the New York Islanders winning the division. I really like this Islanders team. It's built for the playoffs, but I say they also win the division this year. Why not? It's a very strong team, not really any weaknesses, so I have them first. Hurricanes, despite kind of a questionable offseason, I still think it's a very good team. I think they finished 2nd. The Flyers are my bounce-back team. The Flyers bounced back this year. They finished 3rd. The Flyers historically make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. They do that every year. They missed the playoffs last year, so they make it this year. But not just that. I mean, I think it's a much stronger team this year. I think they bounce back. Now, this is where things people are going to question. People are going to question what I have here. So I have the Rangers 4th division and asterisks to them. So I have the Rangers making the playoffs. I have them making the playoffs over the Capitals and the Penguins. People are going to question this, and it might turn out to be a stupid. Prediction on my part, but it's the prediction that I have. I like this Rangers team. I think you're going to see some of those guys, those younger guys, really, really break out this year, especially Lafreniere, Kakko, and I like this Rangers team. I really do. I think they break out this year. And I have the Capitals and Pens. I have them both missing the playoffs. Again, this could age very poorly, but I want, all the predictions up to this point have been pretty, I don't want to say bare bones, but pretty realistic. Not super exciting. This one, I think the Metro is the division that I had the hardest time predicting. I really could see anything happening in this division. This division, I think, is going to be the most fun to watch this year. I think it's the best division, for that matter. The Central can have something to say about that, but I think the Metro is the best division in hockey. And I had a real hard time projecting this division. I really had a hard time leaving the Capitals and Penguins out, but I think both the Flyers and Rangers got much better years this year, and that's why I have them missing it. So we'll see. The Devils, I hate having them out because I really do like the Devils. I think they're a much better team. I just don't see them finishing half the teams I have ahead of them. I just don't. I think they're a good team, but I don't see it. And the Blue Jackets, it's going to be a tough year for them. I don't think they're as bad as some people think, but again, this division, they're going to have a hard time. So I have them in 8th. Now, time for the playoffs. Might as well do a playoff prediction. Why not? We're doing everything else. So very, very early playoff prediction. So round 1, the West. I got Colorado versus Minnesota. I got Colorado in 5. Avalanche, historically very good in the first round, so they should have no problems there. Winnipeg versus St. Louis. I have Winnipeg in 6. Vegas versus Vancouver. I have Vegas in 5. Edmonton versus Chicago. I have upset here. I have Chicago in 6. Well, I guess upset, some people might see it away, but I have Chicago in 6. So those are my round 1 predictions for the West. I think Avalanche, they're always pretty good in the first round, and then the Jets, their team, I think they'll be a close division. There'll be a close battle there, but I think the Jets just edge out there. And Canucks and Golden Knights. Canucks, I don't know. They'll definitely give them a fight, but I don't see them being the Golden Knights. And then I think the Hawks and Oilers, that could be a very interesting series. But I have the Blackhawks upsetting them, but I could really see that one going either way. Moving on to the East, I got Florida versus Toronto. This will be a fun one if it does happen, because these are 2 teams. The Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won the first round since 2004, and the Panthers won a first round since '96. So these are two teams that have done jack shit in the playoffs, and both these two teams need to prove themselves. So one of these teams are finally going to break their curse if they do meet each other, and I have that being the Panthers. I think the Panthers taking it in 7 because of course they will. The Leafs will probably take a 3-0 lead, and the Panthers will storm. I'm just joking, but it could happen. It could happen. So I have the Panthers in 7 here. Tampa Bay versus Boston. I think Lightning take them out in 5. Boston team's still good, but I don't see them being that Tampa team. Islanders, Rangers, a battle of New York. That's right. And I have the Islanders taking that in 6. That could be a very fun series, but I think the experience of the Islanders prevails against the youth of the Rangers. The Hurricanes versus the Flyers. I have the Hurricanes in 6. That could be a good series, but I have a hard time seeing the Hurricanes lose that one. So yeah, those are my first round predictions. Moving on to the second round. Got the West. Colorado versus Winnipeg. I have the Avalanche in 6 in that one. And then I have a rematch here. Vegas versus Chicago from 2020. And Fleury versus Robin Lehner. What a series that would be. And I have an upset. I have Chicago taking this one in 7. Marc-Andre Fleury gets his revenge against his former team in Vegas and gives a middle finger to the crowd. What a moment that would be. Yeah, Fleury's not the type of guy to do that, but man, that would be amazing if he did. This prediction, I mean, it's tough. I think the Vegas is probably the better team, but I think it'd be great to see Fleury get his revenge. I think this Hawks team is much better than people think. I think this is a team that's really going to surprise this year. Then the East got a rematch here again. The rematch of the Battle of Florida, the greatest rivalry in hockey, the Battle of Florida. And I have the Panthers getting their revenge. I think the Panthers taking 7. This is a much better Panthers team. I think the additions of Sam Reinhart. I think Sam Reinhart's going to be big for them. I think a full season of Sam Bennett with them. I think that'll be huge. And Spencer Knight. I think Spencer Knight could definitely be a wild card for the Florida team. I think if he does really well, that could be everything they need. I think the Panthers take that division, that series in 7. Islanders versus Canes. I have the Islanders in 6. I think this Islanders team, built for the playoffs. They take that series in 6. Conference finals. Colorado versus Chicago. Chicago's, Cinderella run comes to an end as they fall to the Avalanche in 5 games. They make it interesting. They may win a game, but Avalanche team, they don't have much issues here. After finally breaking their second round drought in the Avalanche, they cruise past the Hawks in the 3rd round on the way to the Stanley Cup final. Panthers versus Islanders. This will be a slugfest by the Islanders taking in 7. I think the Panthers, this will be a valuable lesson for them as I think going into the next season, after this season, I think they could definitely fight for that cup. But they need, after prevailing through the first round, they make it very far, but they can't quite make it to the cup. The Islanders, they finally break their conference final drought after missing out the last 2 years. They finally break through against the other Florida team, and they make it to the cup final. So that gives us the Avalanche versus the Islanders, and I have the Avalanche in 7. I think this will be a great final, a slugfest, but I think the Avalanche, after all they need to do, I think, is just break that second round drought. Once they do that, I think they win the cup. I think the Islanders, it'll be close to them too, because I think they finally make it to the cup final after missing out the past 2 years, but I think they just fall short. I think the Avalanche, this is their year. I think they take it in 7. That's my prediction. So yeah, Stanley Cup champion, Colorado Avalanche, Western Conference champs, Colorado Avalanche, the Eastern Conference champs, New York Islanders. It will be a great season, I think. And I think it's the Avalanche's season to lose. We'll see. I thought they're going to win the cup last year, and they didn't. So this could definitely be a prediction that ages poorly. But for me, it's a bit of a boring prediction, but it's a prediction I think that makes the most sense. Avalanche win the cup. So yeah, I got some player awards here too. Pretty boring predictions here. I got McDavid winning the Hart, Art Ross, and the Lindsay because of course he will once he gets hurt. Vezina, I got going the Connor Hellebuck of the Jets. I think he takes another one. Norris, I got Cale Makar winning his first Norris Trophy. And the Calder, I got the Cole Caulfield. I think Cole Caulfield's going to have another very good season for the Canadians in that first line to Foley and Suzuki. If that line keeps it going, I think that'll be a very good season for him. And Jack Adams, I got going to Joe Quimbo for finally breaking the Panthers' playoff series drought and winning the division. I got Quimbo winning the Jack Adams. So yeah, those are my. Actually, you know what? I didn't do a President's Trophy winner, did I? Who wins the President's Trophy? I'll say the I'll say the Avalanche. Yeah, let's just fill that in right now. Yeah, why not? Say Colorado President's Trophy. So they break the President's Trophy curse. I believe the last team to win the President's Trophy to win the Cup was the Hawks in 2013. That's not how you spell trophy. There you go. So yeah, Colorado wins the President's Trophy and the Cup. So they become the first team since the Blackhawks in 2013 to do that. But anyway, those are my predictions for this upcoming season. It's going to be a hell of a season. I can't wait. And let's go. Let's get it. NHL 2021-22 season predictions. These could age very poorly, but Hey, we'll see. We'll see. That's the fun of predictions. They normally don't age well, and people can laugh at you later. But anyway, my predictions. Hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out. Have a good one.